And
wait, anything goes? Is that original?
Yeah.
Anything goes.
All right, let's go. It's gonna be fun.
oh man. All right. Ready when you are.
Hello, welcome to the 6th episode of the podcast, and today we have
Terry Dorsey, comedian, originally from Chicago, now living in Los Angeles.
Nice. So you're a stand-up comedian. How long have you been doing your craft so far?
That's an interesting story. Well, it's two different journeys. Okay, I started when I was 20 years old, and I did comedy until I was 26, and I thought I had it all. I did everything I wanted to do, get it out of my system, moved to the Bay Area, and now I've been back on stage about 7 years.
7 years.
Why'd you move to the Bay? Why the Bay specifically?
Well, to be straight up, it was work. I was working for AT&T, and I was in marketing, because after I left comedy, I went into marketing. It just made sense, right? I'm quick on my feet, a lot of ideas and stuff. So I moved here for that, and it was a 6-month contract. And I got here and was like, there's no way in hell I'm going back to Chicago. I moved here in February, the week of the Super Bowl. It was 76 degrees. I left Chicago, it was 7, maybe 6 degrees. You see what I'm saying? Like, that was the difference. It was like 7 or 6 or 76.
Right.
I'm staying here. And I've
So
been
it was
here
just the weather?
The weather and the people. To be straight up.
Melting pot.
Yeah, it's a huge melting pot.
Oh, yeah, it's a huge melting pot around April 20th, huge melting pot.
Yeah, oh yeah, we definitely melting.
Oh yeah,
that was weird too, because like I said, I was still working for AT&T, and we were launching a Uverse campaign. It was very new, and I went to this customer's house. I was doing a training out, right? Go to this customer's house, and I see this bong. Now mind you, I've been in California 3 weeks. I see this bong, but it had a nail in it, and I was like, well, where do you put the weed? I'm just thinking, my head's turned. So I asked him, I was like, hey man, I never seen a bong like that. What's up with this bong? And he was like, oh, it's for the dabs. And I was like, dabs. All right, cool. All right, I'm off it. And then I started talking to him. I said, what do you want, where? He was like, nah, man, it's cool. It's dabs. Dabs is weed. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, yeah, you don't know what dabs are? I'd never heard of dabs before. Remember, Midwest, we weren't there yet. We're just getting there now. So I'm in this dude's house. I'm thinking I'm in a fucking crack house is what it is. I was like, I've made a huge mistake. You know what I mean? And he was like, no, all you got to do, you take the oil, right? It's weed oil. We make this oil. Then you put a little bit on there. You heat this nail up first, though, until it turns red hot. And I was just like, yeah, definitely a crack house. And I was just totally taken aback by it. And it took me a long time to even give in. To dabs, because I was just such a knob. I was just like, nah, I'm just here to smoke weed. But I had to watch somebody actually make dabs before I would even take it. Because I don't really play around. I'll be honest with you. I smoke weed, I drink, I dabble, but I ain't really into like drugs. That felt like drugs. And after I hit a dab for the first time, I was like, weed is a drug. Because I was as high as I'd ever been in my entire life off weed. You know what I mean? So that was my first. So that was my kind of like first couple weeks in California experience, man. But well, understanding that it's a lot of weed scientists here. This is where the weed science is, So I didn't know that. So it just opened me up to a whole new world of everything. So yeah, the weed, different people, definitely just more chill, which I also attribute to the weed.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, this whole region of the United States is known for weed and wine. There's no, coincidence that these are some of the coolest people in the country.
True.
Best bubble so far.
All right.
Yeah.
So, do you think you have to be offensive to be funny?
No, but it helps. It does. People like shock culture in general. That's why we look at Instagram. We're not just looking at Instagram to look at pretty people. We want to see the fights. We want to see the accidents. We want to see the bad kids.
We love drama.
We love the drama. As of recently, my material, I feel, I do a lot of racial jokes. But I do not try to make anyone who's not my race the butt of a joke. You know what I mean? I try, even though I do a joke about Asian people, and I feel like Asian people get really old. Out of every race, Asian people just seem to get the oldest. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
And I made that into a joke. I was like, Asian people don't die. They just get old and move to another neighborhood. You know what I mean? That's what, but it's ways of, it seems like I'm going to set it up to be mean.
Yeah.
And I just flip it and like, nah, it's just funny. So, it's offensive in a sense, but not offensive in a way that's at the expense of another person. Because I think in comedy, some comics are pure shock and they just want to be mean. But I think if you're really going to be in the top 10, 20% of this game, you have to find a way, even if you're making fun of people, to make them laugh at it too. Because if they're not laughing at it too, it's not funny, it's just me.
True.
You know?
Can you describe how it was doing your first show ever? Like going up in front of like a whole bunch of strangers, trying to see if your material's any good. How was that feeling like for you?
That was I was really scared. Of course, you know, even though I'm very comfortable in front of people, but now I'm finally saying, hey, look at me, I'm funny. That's a lot different than just being funny in the room and shocking people.
Yeah.
And I remember I was on my way to Riddle's Comedy Club. It was the first time I'd ever really performed in a comedy environment. And I was trying to hype myself up in the car. You know how it is, you know, just like Eminem,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, you know, you're just doing, you know, only get one shot type thing. And I'm just rapping on the way to the thing. And I'm at the stoplight and I'm full like into it. And I look over and it's a car full of chicks. And they're all just staring at me like this. And as soon as they caught me, they all just bust up laughing, right? And I was like, all right, cool. Well, nothing's going to be more embarrassing than that. Went up on that first show, had a hell of a set, man, no joke. Felt like I was a comedian and did a callback because for some reason I wanted to talk about what happened on the way over there. Guess what? Those girls who caught me in the car were on their way to that comedy show. So they bust up laughing, which made everybody else laugh, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is a two-part story. That was the 8 o'clock show. There was a 10:30 show. And the guest host was Damon Williams, very funny comedian from Chicago. It was D. Ray Davis's show at Riddle's Comedy Club. I've been going there a lot, hanging out, right? And Damon tells D. Ray, hey, man, dude did all right, man. You know, Terry, like, well, Shady at the time. He's like, you know, Shady is like, yeah. He's like, man, dude did all right. You want to put him up on the 10:30 show? And he looked at me like, you down? I was like, yeah. Because in my brain, I'm like, I'm a comedian now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I just rocked. I got new fans that I met before I even got here. Went up on that 10:30 show and bombed my ass off. I'm talking about nothing hit. It was 2 hours in between and nothing hit, right? And I think I kind of got a little bit of a laugh towards the end and I got off stage and then D-Ray came up to me and he said, now you're a comedian. I knew you wasn't going to do well on the 10:30. He says it's the 10:30 show, bro. You ain't ready for that crowd. That's the rowdy crowd. That's strippers and drug dealers. Everybody drunk. They came in messed up. The 8 o'clock show was easy. It's a bunch of date night people. You know, they got to go back to get their kids. He's like, but you survived it. You went through it. Now you can hold your chin up. He was like, I saw you, bro. You was running around here. I saw you was looking like a little celebrity for 5 minutes, you know? So he taught me a really big lesson. And I actually had Damon Williams on my podcast I did during the quarantine. And we talked about that night. And he said, yeah, D-Ray said he thought you were a comedian that day. I considered you a comedian when you came back after bombing. Because that's when I started to respect you. I know you had a good set, then you had a bad set. He said if that dude shows back up, then he's the real deal. And I'm still here.
So that's wild. You were able to come back. Did 2 shows in your first night. That's wild. That's wild.
I was really dumb on my part, actually. I should have just took the W, you know what I mean? But like I said, it's like the arrogance sets in.
Realistic.
The arrogance sets in real quick, man. When you walk into a room, the thing about comedy that a lot of people don't know, as much as I love the laughter, there is nothing like the silence. You got 150, 200 people in the room, and they're like, give it up for Terry Dorsey. Everybody claps, and then you grab that mic. You can hear the ice in the glasses. Everybody's waiting and so attentive. There's nothing like that silence. You know what I mean? But also, there's nothing like that silence when you throw a punchline down and it doesn't hit because it's dead silent. Everybody knows you thought that was going to be funny. So, you know, those are the things that I look at in comedy, man. There's nothing like that. We're all attention whores. We love the attention. But it's not just from the laughs. You know what I mean? It's can I get 100 people to shut up and look at me and wait for me to talk? That's what's amazing. I love it.
That's true. That's true. Now, when you say you like comedy is kind of like you were inspired by, who are some like comedians that you grew up with that it's like you kind of take it into your own material, you know?
Well, it's funny because my favorite comedian is Eddie Murphy. I thought Eddie was the best all-around comedian. You know, he only gave us 2 specials, but you got to remember Eddie Murphy wasn't even old enough to drink by the time he finished the first special. By the time the second special came out, I think he was 22 years old. So he was actually a child prodigy. So he was my favorite. I think he was the best at impressions. He was the best at just general jokes, his mannerisms on stage. But I don't take anything from Eddie Murphy. It's funny. I love him. I appreciate him. I like Dave Chappelle a bit more. As far as like who I'm going to pattern myself after, I think Dave Chappelle was a better just storyteller. Dave doesn't really do impressions that well.
Sure.
He's funny. When he does an impression, his Prince impression wasn't dead on.
Yeah.
It was funny. It was a tribute impression where, when Eddie would do it, he would be Mr. T. He would be Prince. Whoever he was, he would totally embody that character. Where, to me, Chappelle, who was also a child prodigy. A lot of people don't realize Chappelle started comedy when he was 16 years old. Those guys, to me, I think were the biggest influence. I wanted what Eddie had, but I really felt more in line with what Chappelle had. But direct influences would have to be like people I actually saw live, which would be Deion Cole, who's doing phenomenal. We just hosted the Soul Train Awards recently. But Deion Cole's also just a great storyteller. D. Ray Davis is, of course, a huge influence on my career just because he was the first person I saw go from nobody knows who he is to kind of a household name. And I watched his entire career. And I just have such an appreciation for what he can do on stage. The fact that he's been doing this almost 30 years and he's still killing it is amazing.
I want to know, how did you know you were funny, though? What started the whole I want to be a comedian? Or I can be a comedian?
Well, that's funny. Well, 6th grade, I was the short, fat kid, right? I didn't get any of my height until like 8th grade. And it was this one guy's name is Joe. Joe was super popular. He was really a handsome kid, you know what I mean? All the girls liked Joe, and he was really funny. And I was kind of the quiet fat kid just trying not to get picked on. And Joe roasted me one day in class, and it's like a lightning bolt hit me in the head. I don't even remember what I said, but I hit him back real fast. And the whole class was like, oh, snap. Don't be messing with Terry, man. Terry is sneak up on you. I didn't know. And Joe comes up to me after class and was like, I ain't gonna lie, bro, that was pretty funny, man. I didn't expect you to come at me like that. And I realized that comedy was a way for me to be social. Like, that's when I was in 6th grade, when I realized now they accepted me because they thought I was funny. Up to that point, I was kind of the outcast. So I'd always try to be comical and funny. But when I really first thought that maybe I could do it, was sneaking into this one comedy club in Chicago. It's called TNT Comedy Hook, and they had an 18 over show. We would sneak into that show. I was 16, 17, and we were sneaking because I always had this beard since freshman year, so I could pass for an adult. And we would sneak in. What we realized is once you snuck into the show, they don't card you. So we could drink. So we would hang out at this club every weekend, right? And I would watch these comics, and these were people who I didn't know personally. Like Corey Holcomb was on that show a lot, but he was the only one I knew that had been on TV at that point. Everybody else was local comics. At the time, D. Ray Davis, local comic, right? Yeah. And I was like, yo, I think, I'm looking at them, right? I'm looking at who I am, and I'm sneaking into this show, and I was like, dude, I could probably do this. I think I can get up there and at least last. They only up there like 5-10 minutes. Maybe I can try to do it. It took me 3 years to build the courage up to finally get on stage. But it was really seeing comedy, watching it on TV and watching it online is one thing. But if you're not in the room, you're not getting the full effect of what's happening. You don't know how funny the comic was before the comic that went up. That could be good, that could be bad. Or how the room shifted because this comic's energy to that comic's energy. And I saw that. I was like, oh, so it's not like one like polarizing thing, like you just stand there and tell jokes. Like what I thought, no, it's about personality. And I was like, I think I got a big enough personality to do this. Sure. And like I said, it took me 3 years, but finally went up.
Now, let me ask you this, because we're all like, some way, some form, we're performing arts or doing kind of that kind of stuff. What made you want to do like this full time kind of thing? Like, when your family heard, like, I want to do this, I want to pursue this, like, was there any backlash?
Oh, there was tons of backlash. My parents were both passed. My dad never believed in me doing comedy. He didn't. He was just like, dude, it's a cool hobby. I know you're funny, right? But you're never going to really be able to do anything with that. Come on, man, let's be serious until BET called the house.
Oh,
yeah, I got called to do BET's Comic View, and I wasn't home. And I had a cell phone, but it was on and off, so I gave my parents' house number. Yeah. And they called the house, and then my dad calls me, and he's like, "Hey Terry," I said, "What's up?" He was like, "Yeah, some lady called from BET. She said that you need to get your hotel for Comic View." And I was like, "Oh, dope! They called. Cool. That's what's up." He's like, "Yeah, here goes the number." But as he's talking to me, you can hear how bewildered he was on the phone, like, am I really calling my son to tell him some TV show just called The House? And that's when he started believing in it. You know what I mean? My mom is a mom. You know how moms are. Sure. Mom's always kind of supportive. She had come out to a couple of shows, which was nice. But yeah, he just didn't see it, and it's still hard for me to see it sometimes, But comedy is going to either force you out or force you in. And that, I don't know if that works that same way for music and other parts of the arts, but if you're gonna work at this craft and you wanna be a comedian, it's gonna come a point where it's gonna say, I need you. I always say comedy's like an evil mistress. You love her, you'll even pay to be with her. Even though she's gonna whip you and beat you and spank you and call you all kind of stupid names, but every once in a while, she's gonna give you love. That's what you fight for.
That's just called having an Asian wife. But
Yeah, man.
This is a good transition to ask you my next question.
Can we pause
Yeah, let's pause.
Okay.
hey,
for the next question?
Yeah.
All right, we're
what's the next
going.
question to that?
Yeah, we're
Rolling,
good.
rolling. All right.
I think we got a comedy, yeah?
Huh?
You want to move on to the next subject?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
lead to it.
Go.
All right. I can ask.
Go for it. We're rolling.
All right. So I'm pretty funny myself.
Mhm.
Now I'm not funny enough to be a comedian, but check this out. I try to mask all my emotions and feelings with sarcasm and humor. But really deep down, I'm depressed.
Right, right.
Or I'm sad.
That
most of
makes
the
you a
time.
comedian, actually.
Hang on.
Every
I'm gonna
comedy-
ask you. Do you feel the same way? Is there like some kind of depression within or sadness that helps you get to that comedy when you're on stage?
Well, I don't know if it's so much something like depression within. It's more of a, we're all fighting stuff, right?
Yeah.
Every single person is. But for 15 minutes, right? I get to go on stage and create this space where we laugh at the things that we're mad about, that we're upset about, that we're sad about. We make fun of it. So I've always looked at comedy as a vacation away from the bullshit that is our life. You know, that's why most people go into a comedy club and having a bad week. You know what? I want to have a good time.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to a comedy show. And we all get in this room and laugh and joke about all the stuff that makes us sad and depressed. And for a minute, we're not. You know, and that's why I love comedy, because it gives us that break from our life, you know. But most comics are fighting with a lot of stuff, you know, whether it be financially or with family or kids, whatever the case may be, we all fighting with it. But when I step on that stage, it's gone. You know what I mean? I don't like, we don't get sick days, you know. So even if I'm under the weather, if I'm not feeling good, I could have been in bed all day, but I know I got a show. I'm just getting myself ready, because when I get on that stage, I can leave it for a few minutes.
I feel the same way when I'm on set.
Mhm.
You know, making the films.
Mhm.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no laughter, but you know, you're,
But no, it's
you're in
the
front of
escape.
that camera.
Yeah, like another friend of mine who he makes music, you know, he's a great producer, he's produced rap music, he's done stuff in video games and all kind of stuff. And when he's having a bad day, he will just literally go down to the studio and just bang out beats, because art is what we use to escape life. That's the way it's always been. I mean, even if you're looking at your paintings, if you're, you know, listening to music, these are all different forms of art that allows us to escape where we're at and go into a different world. Whether in movies, the same. You know, these are all, for an hour and a half, you're not in your world. You give it into something else.
Yeah.
That's true.
And to be the curator of that, to be the person who's at the front of that feeling and those emotions, that, one, is a huge responsibility, but there's nothing like doing a set and having somebody come up to you after the show and be like, dude, I was having a bad week. That was like exactly what I needed. Thank you so much. That's worth it. That's way worth more than the money. Sometimes, you know what I mean? But it truly is worth more than that when you can actually affect someone with your art.
Yeah.
Especially with comedy, because it's so subjective. You know what I mean? When you can affect someone and bring them out of a place, that helps you get out of your place. You know what I mean? The comedy's always reminded me that, you know, it's bigger than just jokes. That's why I'm not just a goofy comic. You know what I mean? I'm not just a clown. Some comics are just clowns. Sure. Right? I just want anything for a laugh. I want to make you think. I want to make you, like, I make jokes about things that are uncomfortable on purpose, because I know the sooner we can talk about something uncomfortable, the sooner we can actually fix problems. You know, a lot of times comedians, like, think about court jesters, right? Those are like the first paid comics. They saved lives with comedy. They'd be like, no, don't kill him, King. It's fine. It's cool. No, he's a good guy. Those are the things we do, because you have to take a pause. He might have just been in a rhythm of killing people. But the jester jumped in and was like, wait, hold on. Did you really listen to this guy? I thought you got a point. Those guys were saving lives. And I think, and to a degree, I'm not saying I save lives, but to a degree, we help enrich people's lives, where we might keep you from feeling sad or feeling anxious, or maybe make light of something that could have been bothering you all week, you know, whether it be like racism, ageism, sexism, whatever it is. If we're making fun of that, showing people how dumb it can be, maybe that allows you to not be so serious about it and then you can have a real analytical approach and move past it. So, yeah, that's just my take on comedy in general.
Yeah. Comedy itself is very difficult, especially the day and age of social media, you know?
Yeah.
So when it comes to like social media, it was politically correct, you know? I use this in air quotes because comedy has definitely changed over time, you know?
Yeah.
How do you adjust to fit like the modern sense of like what's acceptably okay? And I guess for you, what was the controversial joke that you had planned out, but you felt like, I really can't say this out loud, I'm not sure.
Oh man, it was a joke I was doing. I love doing this joke too, and I'm kind of bringing it back.
Okay.
But it was this joke about, I was sitting at the Thanksgiving table trying to figure out, I need a joke for the holidays. I don't really have a holiday joke.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, a bunch of people get proposed to during the holidays, right? And long story short, the joke is basically, why do men get down on one knee when we propose? It's because we're not talking to you. Think about it, on one knee, right? We're talking to the pussy. We're like, you're beautiful, you're special, you're amazing. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. You know, here, put this ring on. You know, it was this, but
If you put the ring on, you just keep staring at it.
you know? And I love doing this bit, and it's a real misdirection bit. I talk about how I wanted to get married and all these other things, so it's this whole sweet story that just ends up in it's a pussy joke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in the age of Me Too and sexism, I had to stop doing the bit because it went from being really funny
Sure.
to being divisive.
Yeah.
It was like splitting the room, where some people thought it was funny and other people just like, yeah, I don't know about that one last joke. But before that whole awareness became, it was no big deal. So you always have to be able to move on the swivel. What's offensive this week might not be offensive next week. Then it might, a month later, be offensive again. You just have to really, for one, be true to your voice, I think. Because I still will pull that bit out. If I got a long set, I might pull that bit out. But that used to be my closer, my go-to closer. Now, I might fit it in the middle.
Let's pause just for a second to get rid of these sirens.
See, you do one pussy joke and then...
You got the
See
gun
what
out
I mean? You
there.
see what I mean? This would never happen before Me Too.
Oh, I don't know who's reporting on Twitter as well.
All right, we're still going. Feel free.
I mean, so in your opinion, would you feel like social media has been kind of like killing comedy altogether?
No, I don't think so. A lot of people say that. I think social media is expanding comedy.
Sure.
Comedians have never been able, artists in general, have never been able to reach these types of audiences without help. Now, from your living room, from your bedroom, from your car, you can reach millions of people. So, no, it's not killing it. What is killing, though, are audiences. Because now the market is so saturated online, they're seeing comedy every day, and things that they would take as stand-up comedy, which is not, it's just funny. You know what I mean? There is now changing the narrative of what is a comedian. Now anybody who's funny is a comedian.
Sure.
But now we need to recategorize the thing, because you had stand-up comedians, and then you have social media comedians. Those two things are not the same, and they're not interchangeable. Like, I'm a great stand-up. I'm not as good on social media as I am in person. But I've also seen a lot of these dudes on social media try to get up on stage, and guess what? They're not as good as me. It's because their strong suit lied in the edit and the camera, where my strong suit, I edit on stage.
Sure.
So I think over the next few years, we're going to see the blending of the two. Like, I think more social media comedians are going to be working with stand-ups to get better and vice versa. And it's only going to be good. But yeah, the audiences, I think, are more affected by social media than the actual art is. Because audiences are way more objective to what it is they like, what they don't like, what they want to see, what they expect. Where 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you went there and you didn't know what to expect as much. Now we're just exposed to live stand-up and comedy more than we ever have been.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Now, unfortunately, like when we're in performing arts, it's very hard for us to do this full time and everything. So, what other passions or pursuits have you done while you've been doing comedy?
Well, I mean, working on acting as well. I've been very fortunate. But, being a stand-up, it kind of opens doors for you. So I've been very fortunate to do a lot of background work and extra work. That's kind of like a part-time job for most comedians before you make it to the next level. So, I've been able to work on Netflix productions. I've worked on Showtime.
Looks
all
like
that
we
stuff.
have an actor.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
looking for one.
I mean, I'm looking for work.
Oh, perfect!
I'm always looking for work. But that's one of the reasons I'm even down in LA. I'm taking
Yeah.
acting classes, starting this.
You are taking acting.
I'm going to be taking acting classes. I've been around the field, and I'm a real world learner anyway. And even if I'm an extra on set, I'm there soaking up as much information as possible, listening to the direction that the directors are giving to the actors, how they're receiving it. So I've learned a lot, but I need the credentials to be able to, gain better gigs. Because I want some speaking gigs. Yeah, I want to, do that.
We'll talk after.
Yeah, for sure.
Going off that, since you are taking acting classes, there's a thing like improv. You know? Do you feel like being a stand-up comedian, improv comes more naturally to you?
Absolutely not. But it doesn't just come down. Improv is, a lot of people think improv is easier than stand-up, and I don't think that's at all the case. I took improv probably like 7 years ago. I took an improv class, and I was like, this is not at all what I thought improv was. Yeah. It's like, it's just a set of rules and games that you need to know the rules of the games to make it funny. Yeah. Where with comedy, I create the games. Yeah. I create the rules. I have full anonymity to do whatever it is I want to do. With improv, you're dealing with the crew, whether it be short form or long form, and you have to respect the rules so everyone knows where to go. So I think, if anything, me taking improv classes helped me be a better stand-up comedian.
I see.
That helped me learn how to read a crowd better. That helped me learn how to have more confidence with just coming off the cuff. Where before that, I was kind of strictly in my paper. But after improv, I could come out of the notepad and be in the room. And I think for any stand-up comedian, you should definitely take improv classes. It's imperative, I think, just for you to open up your particular voice on stage.
Absolutely. You have something to say?
Yeah. What is your biggest struggle you faced either in your personal life or in your career?
Biggest struggle? Time management. I want to do it all.
Yeah. I
want to act, I want to create, I want to promote, I want to do stand-up, and it's only 24 hours in a day, and you got to sleep at some point. The thing is now I'm a little older. Like when I was in my early 20s, it was no problem. I could do it all, I didn't have as many responsibilities. Now it's just time management. Like how do I break my day down to allow me to give enough to everything that I'm trying to do for them all to work? Because the biggest problem you're going to face is everything falling apart because you're trying to do too much.
Yeah.
True.
But it's like you can't sit still, and I can't, as much as I want to be on stage every night, I just can't be on stage every night, so I have to fill my time up with other things as well. And I'm doing better at it, but it's just learning when to say yes and when to say no. I'll say yes to everything. And then I'll go back and I'll look at my calendar and be like, why the hell did you say that? Like to Gabby's credit, she's been on me. And if it doesn't go on my calendar, it doesn't exist now because I always say yes to everybody, And her checking up and tuning me up and making sure that I was here was super imperative to me, even because I will book a show and then 2 weeks later forget that I ever said yes to next Friday and book another show. And instead of telling one of them no, I'll just try to do both of them because I want to do it all. And sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, So it's just learning when to say no.
Okay, let's pause. Sorry.
Pause again? Oh, I'm recording.
Sorry.
Let me-
I said we'll have a manager.
Yeah, do you have a manager or assistant or something? Okay.
Wait. Go ahead and ask the question, then I'm going to put it on you, and then I'll fix that.
Okay. So, do you have a personal manager or agent that helps you organize or anything like that?
Nah, I don't because I can't afford to yet. But I do, I've been known to pretend to be my own manager. Really? Especially when I used to use a pseudonym, I used to be Shady on stage, Shayde. So when I would try to book myself, I would call as Terry, representing Shady. So I would be my own manager. And I would call and I would put on my best, corporate voice and everything. Like, hey, how you doing? It's Terry Dorsey. I was just calling in regards to this and, wanted to see what dates we had available because we're trying to make sure we can get Shady while he's on the West Coast. Sure. And I would just talk about myself in third person and book myself on. I got on Comic View. I booked myself on Comic View. Wow. Because I was sitting over my boys' house. They were all getting phone calls and I didn't get a phone call yet. So I was like, this is bullshit. What number did they call from? I literally, and this is true, I've rarely talked about this. I've literally called the number back and said, hey, I'm representing, comedian Shady. I noticed that you guys are doing a bunch of booking already dates for the Louisiana show. He's going to be in Louisiana. I was not going to be in Louisiana. I was like, he's going to be in Louisiana on these days anyway. And if you guys are going to book him, we're just trying to make sure we get the travel plans set in order. And she was like, you know what? We haven't booked yet. He's still in another category. We're booking our AB. He's more of a C comic right now. But what we're going to do is, can he be here on this Sunday? And I was like, yo, I can't believe it. Sunday, that'd be what day? Yeah. yeah, sure. I'm sure that should work. Great. Okay, they're like, cool. Then we'll be in touch. Let me get the information and literally book myself on a TV show. So even though I couldn't afford a manager, I had to play the part of a manager.
Hilarious.
Hey, that's what you have to do sometimes. You gotta fake it till you make it.
Literally faking it till you make it, man.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that was dope. That was a cool experience.
I mean, besides comedy, you also have your own merch, right?
That's correct. I mean, it's something I started under quarantine. I've been wanting to do merch for a long time, and it's hard for a lot of entertainers to pull the trigger because we see these huge number of amounts it costs to get into the game. And I'm a creative, so I was like, you know what? I could go out and spend $1,000 with this company or $800 with this company, or maybe I'll just go out and spend that same money on the equipment. And I went out and I purchased a vinyl press and a cutter, a plotter cutter, and a button maker. I just bought everything and sat at the house. It was quarantine anyway, and just figured out how to do it. And you know, as you can tell by the shirt, YouTube University.
You want to stand up? So
just so you can tell, it's YouTube University. I went on YouTube and learned everything I need to know about how do you design, how do you cut, how do you press. So I'm totally self-taught. And I had another friend who was doing it as well. So I'll call him like, yo, I got kind of stuck. I don't know how to do this. And work my way through it. So at first it was just to make my merch. But then when I realized how much money I was making now, I was like, dude, this is a resource most comedians need. So I know we can't afford to do always that $700, $800 purchase to make it cheap enough for you to make money. I was like, well, since I'm just a one-man shop, I don't have a ton of overhead, I can give people that same price and they don't have to buy 400 pieces, 200 pieces or whatever to get that dollar amount. So that's why I started doing the merch company. And I ain't gonna lie, I love it. If I could just do this in comedy, life is good.
I mean, that's a great side hustle, you know?
Mad respect, because I won't actually teach myself how to do some, even though I know I have all the sources.
Yeah.
I won't.
I mean, it's a Virgo thing, man. So, you know, we think we're good at everything. We think we're right all the time. You know what I mean? And so that works for and against you, you know. But yeah, it was a struggle like that. But like literally being a complete novice, having no idea, just having all this equipment. Like, all right, now you got the equipment. That was step one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Step two, open up YouTube. And figure out how to use it. And I remember when I made my first shirt, I could not believe that I took an idea out of my head, put it into my computer, fed it into the machine, made the shirt, and put it on. It was like, what? And it's just been, you know, just a cascade. So from there, it went from just doing shirts to doing like the hats. These beanies are something new that I'm doing. Mugs, like, I mean, just anything. I like basically I ask people to challenge me, like, what you want to try to do? What do you want to make? Let's figure it out so that I can learn. So with each new customer that I'm working with or client, I'm learning more every time. You know, and so I explain to people, you know, like, hey, we can try it. Let's see what happens. I can't guarantee, I'm not sure what the result will be, but this is what I think this would be a good way to do it. And let's try it. And every time it seems to work out because I know what they're trying to do. I understand that you're doing this to make money, but I also know that the quality has a lot to do with how much money you can charge. So, you know, I try to steer people in the right direction, you know, for price points and everything. So that's where, like, I guess the marketing and comedy kind of met up again, where I left comedy and went into marketing. I learned a lot about sales and people. And, you know, the most important thing I learned in marketing was this one phrase called WIFM. You ever heard this?
WIFM?
WIFM. You ever heard of WIFM? WIFM, W-I-F-M, what's in it for me?
Oh my God.
That's one of the most important things in marketing. Not just for the client, but for the end user. You know, like if you're selling them something, they know you're making money.
Sure.
But what am I going to get from it? What am I going to gain? So they know you're selling merch because you need to make money. Are you just doing it to make a quick buck? Are you buying the cheapest possible t-shirt you can and making the cheapest or are you making a good product that you're also selling for merch? So with the merch business, that's one of the reasons I go after, like, I don't know if you're familiar, like Pro Club t-shirts. Pro Club is a real popular, just basic t-shirt. They're very heavyweight. They sell those shirts anywhere from like $10 to $20, depending on what neighborhood you're in, right? Yeah. I went to the wholesaler for Pro Club to buy that for my merchandise. Because I know when people touch that shirt, they're like, ooh, this is nice. How much you selling this for? I'm like, yeah, it's $25. They're like, this is like a $15, $20 shirt already. And if they see the Pro Club tag, I'll leave it in there. So they know I spent that extra money on the shirt. They know they're getting their money's worth. They're not just supporting the comic. They're getting a shirt. They know it's going to be nice. Sure. And same thing with hoodies or hats or anything. I want to make sure that it's the best quality for the price. And yeah, I will make a cheaper shirt if you absolutely want to. But at the end of the day, I was like, you're saving $1.
Yeah.
$2. Charge them $2 more. Don't make a $20 shirt. Make a $25 shirt. Now it doesn't make a difference that you're spending $11 on the shirt as opposed to $9. You know what I mean? Small quantities, yeah, like $9, you know, for a small quantity, 11, 12, depending on what all you have going on. But if you're selling that shirt for 25, you're still doubling your money. And that's what I looked at. Like, it's for me with merch, it started with buttons, believe it or not. I was buying buttons from this guy, and I think he was charging me 50 cents a button or something like that. And I found out I could charge people $5 for a button. Because they're really just giving you a tip. They liked your comedy. They liked what you did. Now, you know, I even incorporated that into my spiel. Like, hey, if you really like what I did, I sell these buttons after the show. They're $5. I know that seems like a lot, but it's a tip. Little pins.
Yeah, gotcha.
You know, I know they're $5, but consider it a tip.
Yeah.
And you get to just take the button home as a receipt. And that's what started it. And it's just been going on ever since. This has been crazy. I love it.
That's dope. That's really dope. So, how do people find like your merch? Do you have like a website or something?
Well, as of right now, I'm only working with artists directly.
Okay.
So, of course, you can always hit me up. I post everything on my Instagram as well. You know, Terry Dorsey 79. But I haven't gone full scale launch with it because again, I'm still just a one man shop, and I'm working with artists directly. So if I to be honest with you, I find most of my clients. I might like this one comedian, super funny. Her name is Jess Niche from Chicago. Super funny. I knew her from Chicago. She was coming into town. So I saw she was going to be here in a week. So I was like, hey, Niche, I see you're going to be in town in a week. Do you have merch? She was like, actually, I don't have merch right now. I was like, yo, I'm doing merch for comedians. You want me to hook you up? I got you. And I reached out to her. So I do a lot of that proactively in the beginning because I've only been doing this like about a year now. So just going after clients to build it up, build my resume, you know, so people can see what I'm doing. And I'm hoping to actually launch by March of this year with a full-scale website. I actually just brought another comedian on who's going to help me. He invested in some more equipment, so now we've doubled up so we can double production. So I'm thinking by March we should be able to launch full-scale.
That's dope.
Yeah, it's exciting.
But right now we're indie for the indies. You know what I mean? I'm an independent, they're an independent, and I'm just trying to work because, I mean, as much as, I want to make money off it because it's a business, I love the fact that I can make something that makes the artist happy because they're like, I got my own merch, but more importantly, they're going to go out and they're going to sell a bunch of that and they're going to be like, dude, I made so much money. Mm-hmm. You know, there's this one comic, I'll say his name too, his name is G. King, very funny, from the Bay Area, Vallejo, and he wanted to do hats. He wears baseball caps. I was like, dude, I can do hats for you. And he had a cool logo, and I put the logo on the hat, and I was like, dude, you need to buy like 50 of these. He was like, well, what if I don't sell 50? I was like, you'll sell them. You're funny as hell, bro. You don't think, he was doing a weekend. He had 5 shows. I'm like, dude, that's 10 hats a show. You don't think you're going to sell 10 hats a show? And he was like, well, man, let's just start with 30. I was like, all right, man, but you're going to run out of hats. Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, I don't know, man. It's the first time doing it. And it was his first time selling hats like that. And he bought 30 hats, and he sold 30 hats.
That day?
That weekend.
That weekend.
And he was like, dude, I sold all the hats. I was like, yeah, I told you. I was like, if you would have had 40, guess what? You would have sold 40. If you had 50, you would have sold 50. You sold out by the, he's like, yeah, I had like 3 hats on Sunday. I was like, exactly, man. And I watched him over the last few months go from being very, even when he re-upped the next couple times, he was still kind of timid. Well, let's just go up by 10. Because he didn't have the confidence. And I was the same way, because it's really weird to do comedy and then be like, hey, give me money for stuff. Yeah. It's a very new thing for most comedians. But it's so cool to watch that entire process to now he's like, yeah, I need 50 hats. I'm going out of town with Frankie. Yeah, I need 50. You think I should do 60? Now he understands because he's doing the math. If you spend $300 with me, you're going to make $600. If you spend $500 with me, you're going to make $1,000. No, these aren't secrets. This is basic math. That's what, I mean, that's the way it goes. You're going to double up your merch. This is why every comic, if you go to see Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, they're going to have merch booths set up because they know they're going to make tens of thousands of dollars on merch, not just on that, show. So yeah, that's one of the reasons that's become a new passion for me, because not just because I make money, it's kind of cool to watch a comedian come out of the cocoon of just all I am as a stand-up. Like, nah, man, you're a market, you're a brand. Your comedy is a complete brand. Now give them a reason. I've talked to comics, I say, and how those people come up to you after the show and they're like, man, you were like really funny, man. I really enjoy it. Where you gonna be next? I was like, every one of those people that said, where you going to be next, were people who would have wanted to buy something from you right there. And you just didn't have anything. So they were like, well, where can I spend money with you? I will follow you to the next venue. And if you give them a conduit that has your merchandise on it, not only are you making money, two, you're sealing in a relationship with a fan. And if you do simple things like adding your Instagram and things of that to your merch, now it's a way that they're going to definitely follow you. They're going to push you to people. When people ask them about the shirt, they're like, oh, you got to follow this dude. He's super funny. It's ways to create a bigger brand for yourself. So it's not just about making money, even though everything is about making money. It's more about building your brand, having brand recognition, and taking a market share of the industry by having your own merchandise line. Because there's only so much money they're going to pay us for doing comedy.
True.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even care what you're paying me anymore most of the time. As long as I know I'm getting paid, I'm like, okay, I'm getting paid, cool. Can I sell merch? Perfect. That's what I care about. Because I know chances are, no matter what you're paying me, I'm going to make more on merch.
Yeah.
Probably.
Most of the time.
True.
Yeah. That's factual.
Mhm.
I know that for sure. I hear from YouTubers and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you look at most YouTube channels, what are they doing? Hey, man,
Selling
make
merch.
sure you pick up the merch. Because, yeah, they're making money off the hits from YouTube. But trust me, they're making way more money
On their
on merch. And shout-outs and things. That's where you're really making money. But the shout-out's only there because you built a brand big enough that people are coming to it every week. So when you do something like that, you have to monetize it. Or you're just cheating yourself. And that's what I realized for years. Me not selling merch, I was cheating myself.
Yes.
You know?
So you're a comedian, merch, and actor?
That's correct.
Anything else?
Triple threat.
My dad?
Oh, you're a dad.
Yeah.
You have a kid.
I used to have a kid.
Oh.
No, he's an adult now.
Oh, what the heck is that?
Yeah,
Don't
he's
be so
20,
sad.
He just turned 21. It is sad. He's 21. I don't have a kid no more,
Now
man.
tell us how you really feel. Okay, now that he's out of the house.
Nah, man. I miss having a kid because
He's 21.
He's just turned 21.
You don't
last year.
look.
I know, I'm 43. I dress like a fuckboy, but I'm a grown man. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. My son just turned 21. And he'll be 22 next year. And that's so crazy to me because I don't have a kid anymore. And I loved having a kid. Now I have an adult. That's harder.
No.
I thought having a kid was hard.
Mm-hmm.
Kid problems are small.
Yeah.
Adult problems are thousands of dollars every time. Like, Dad, I need a new car. Dad, I need to pay for tuition. Dad, I need to do this. I'm like, Dad, this is thousands of dollars. Where kids, you can just be like, shut up, and they don't know what else to do. You know, you can just segment their little life. But, you know, yeah, I mean, I do appreciate my son as a young man, too. Mm-hmm. But I do miss just being a dad. Because now it's more like I was his superhero when he was a kid.
Does he also do comedy?
Nah, he's funny as hell, but he's not. He doesn't want to do comedy.
You don't want to do that?
Now, but I went from being like the superhero to being his partner. You know, where it's like, hey, Dad, I want to consult with you about something.
That's pretty dope.
It's very different. You know, where it's like, I can't just tell him, no, don't do that, do this. He was like, well, I'm listening to what you're saying, but I think I'm going to do it anyway. And what can I say? But I hope the best, you know? Sure. Whereas a kid, I'd be like, no, you're not going to do it. I'm telling you you're not going to do it. This is a bad idea. So it was hard to let go of that power.
Sure.
Now that he's an adult. So, yeah. But he's the best thing I've ever done. I've done a lot of cool shit in my life. Nothing as cool as that kid.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else.
That's amazing to have. So you consider yourself a cool dad then?
No.
I don't think I'm cool. I thought I was a cool dad. I was a cool dad until he turned like 17. And then I'm not cool no more. That hurt. When I wasn't the coolest person in my kid's life, I was the coolest person in his life until he was about 16, 17. And then his friends were way cooler.
You drink early, you talk about how to drink and everything, all that stuff.
Yeah, he ain't really a drinker. He's way more responsible. He's an only child, so he's way more responsible than I ever was. You know, like I had to literally break it down to him. He graduated high school with honors.
Wow.
He got a partial ride purely on academics to DePaul University in their engineering program. He's a fucking scholar. And he thought this whole time that he was trying to beat me. So when he graduated from high school, I was like, all right, dude, I've been waiting to tell you this for a long time. You're 10 years ahead of me. Mm-hmm. All right? You're so much better than I was at your age. And I know it's hard to see it that way because you were looking at me from the child eyes to an adult, but I'm telling you, you're 10 years ahead of me. That kid speaks 5 languages. You know what I mean? And I'm not even including the computer science languages. I'm talking about actual verbal languages. Then when you get into what he can, you know, speak and write and code, that's a whole nother thing. The difference between me and him is he doesn't know how to have fun.
Oh.
Because he was fighting just to, I never thought about the pressure you put on a kid just by way of me being the crazy entertainer that I want to be and him growing up watching me on TV and all that other stuff. I didn't know that would put pressure on him to be, I need to be great because I need to, I wanted to beat my dad too, but I thought me and him were together, not knowing that, he was there, but also plotting on how to beat me the whole time, which forced him to be great, which I like. But it put so much more pressure on him than he needed. So now we're trying to get to the point where I can equalize it. Like, hey man, you gotta find ways to enjoy it. The journey is only gonna happen one time. We don't get to repeat one day in our life. So you better enjoy every day, even if it's work, even if it's school. You better find a way to divide that time up and do something to enjoy yourself. There's gotta be more to this world than homework and video games. Yeah. You gotta get out of the house. So yeah, it's weird because like I said, I'm giving advice to an adult. As opposed, young adult, he's still a child, but young adult, but it's like, it's just weird. And I guess the weirdest part about it is kind of circling back to my cool dad, realizing how much I am just like my dad. And I tried very hard to not be like my dad. I wanted to be the opposite of him. I felt like he was not cool. I felt like he was just too strict.
Is your dad still alive?
No, he passed some years ago. They had me much older in life. They had a very full life. But I've had arguments with my son where I am now my own father from when I was, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like total role reversal where I'm arguing with my son about something that I had to argue with my dad about, and now I'm taking my dad's side, and I'm pissed. I'm like literally talking to my dad like, I can't believe you're still winning in the grave. How is this even possible that you're winning this argument from 20 years ago? And I'm like, if he could hear it, he's like, I told you this. See, now you get it. Now you get it, Because it's just amazing. But now it's just all a journey. And like I said, there's nothing, I've done a lot of cool shit, but there's nothing as cool as being a parent. Nothing as cool as watching your kid grow and get their own identity and, find their own things and see a lot of yourself in your child that they might not even see.
Right.
You know what I mean? With the TV and my friends and the famous people I know, still, nothing comes close. Nothing comes close to that.
Okay, pause.
You guys?
All right, we're rolling.
This is a very colorful podcast,
famous
actually.
last words? Anything you want to...
Famous last words.
Before we head out?
Well, one, thank you guys so much for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate that.
Minority Unite, man. Shit.
Yeah, well, if anybody wants to follow me, you should definitely follow me online. My Instagram is where I have the most action, I guess, and I'll be at Terry Dorsey, that's Dorsey 79. You won't have to type all that in. I'm almost famous. I'm down to 2 letters on Instagram. If you look me up, Terry D.O., I pop up. I'm trying to get rid of... Terry Crews is also on Instagram. He's a pretty big deal. So I got a lot of work to do before I'm just Terry. You know what I mean? But I'm glad I'm finally down to 2 letters on Instagram. That's amazing. I don't care who... anytime I'm at a show, they want to follow me. I'm like, let me do it. Terry D. And I look. Oh, there I go. Because I want to see... I want to see how many letters it takes in random people's phone. But yeah, I have a web series coming out in January called Rent Check. It's going to be the first time I've had a top 5 on any type of a show. It's a show that we shot during quarantine. Okay. You should be looking for that. We're going to be releasing that on YouTube at Rent Check series on YouTube. It's about having roommates in the Bay Area, basically. So, it's myself, another great comedian, Mike Evans Jr., very, very funny brother from San Francisco. So definitely look out for Rent Check series. Super funny. I'm very, very proud of that work. And I got to direct a very, very pivotal episode in there because it is a comedy, but there was one very serious episode that featured the rapper who is now a famous rapper, who wasn't as famous when we were filming, Stunner Man 02 from the song Big Steppin'. It's a huge hit in the Bay Area right now. He's also in the Rent Check series. So yeah, please go check that out. And just keep supporting live comedy. If you're there, I'm going to be there eventually. So if this is stage, trust and believe, we'll meet at some point.
And it gets us.
Subscribe. Bye. Bye.
Take care.
Peace. All right, cool.
Cool.
I'm